So in this video, what we're going to discuss is how I thin my axe handles and the tools that I use to do it with. Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's Wes. I am Midgard Axe. How's everybody doing? I hope you guys are doing great. Sun is out finally. Looks like the rain has decided to go away for just a little bit. It's actually supposed to come back this afternoon and rain all night. So I'm taking advantage of this real quick and trying to make this video. So let's just jump right into it, okay? So when I'm thinning axe handles, I use a variety of tools, and I've got them all laid out here. Some I use almost every time, and then others I don't use but every once in a while. Really depends on the situation and what kind of handle I'm working with, and that'll determine which tool I use most or don't use at all. All right, guys, so here's all the tools that I use whenever I'm thinning axe handles down. Starting with this over here, you use a draw knife. This is something I use. Spoke shave, a Japanese wood rasp, a regular wood rasp, and then a pocket knife. All of these are used and can be used to thin handles down, and some I use more than others. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go over each tool, and we're gonna start from the one that I use the least and work our way up to the one that I use the most, okay? Starting with the spoke shave. The spoke shave is a great tool to utilize and learn. It does have a few drawbacks in my opinion. I really use spoke shaves for taking off excess wood, okay? If I have a handle that's really thick and I need to just take off a bunch of wood, spoke shaves are great for that. Some people use them to do fine detail work, and you can do that, but it takes a lot of practice, guys. If you're not careful with a spoke shave, you can ruin your handle. These things can take gouges out of your wood if your blade's not sharp, and you have to pay attention when you're using these, and you have to practice. They do have adjustments to adjust the blade up and down to give you more of a closer shave or a deeper shave to take off more material. But guys, for me, I really use these to take off excess material when I'm working with a large project and I kind of want to thin it down and get my shape that I want. The next tool is the draw knife. I love using draw knives. They're great. They come in different shapes and sizes. And you can bend them, you can manipulate the blade if you need to get around corners, which is really nice too. So if you want to try to maintain a shape when you're going down the handle, you can with this. These things are great to thin, and they're also great to take off a lot of excess material too. Some people use these to seat their axe heads when they're shaving down the eye of the handle. These things are just really good multi-purpose tools. And like I said before, guys, you can bend them, manipulate them. Just make sure you keep these blades sharp, okay? Because when they get dull, they tend to start gouging wood. A regular old wood rasp. Coarse side and a fine side, okay? I use this all the time. This is a very good tool to have. You have these huge teeth on this side to take off excess material. Then you have a fine side if you need to kind of shape your handle down before you start to use sandpaper. I would recommend that you guys get a wire brush, either a welder's brush, or sometimes they have them just for these. But when you start using these, you're gonna cake up wood inside these teeth, and then it's gonna be kind of useless because it's not gonna be digging into your wood. These things are great for going up and down the entire handle and maintaining somewhat of a shape when you're using it, because you can kind of bend it when you go around corners. So I recommend everybody having one of these. They're very useful tools. And one of my favorite wood rasps to use is the Japanese Shinto. S-H-I-N-T-O, the Japanese Shinto. These things are awesome. Just like the wood rasp that I showed you before, this has a coarse and a fine side on it. This thing is awesome. Depending on how much pressure you put on it, depends on how much wood you take off. So you can take off pressure, add pressure. This thing will destroy some wood if you want it to, and take off a ton on the coarse side. That's why I like these. And then it has a fine side where you can put a little bit of pressure and get a little bit of trimming from here and there. You can also work it around edges and corners. If you guys haven't tried one of these, you really should. These things are great. And last but not least, a good old pocket knife. Guys, you should always always keep a pocket knife on you anyway, but I use this when I need to thin handles down. I also use this whenever I'm out in the field somewhere and I have a little burr inside on my handle, my hands rubbing up against it. I can pull this thing out, take it off really quick, simple, easy. I can put it right back in my pocket. These things are great tools to have for thinning down handles, and I'm going to show you here in a second why. Guys, the reason why a pocket knife is so useful to have is that, say you're out in the woods, you're using your axe, you're out in the field, and you get a burr on your handle somehow. You drop it, something hits it, another sharp object falls on your handle and puts a gouge in it. Now, every time you use your axe, you're feeling that gouge in your hand. Bring out your pocket knife, okay? Put your axe up against a tree, like so, okay? And then just take your knife and just start thinning your handle down wherever you've made that gouge at, okay? Once you start thinning that handle down, you can get that gouge out and you can go straight back to work, okay? It's a really easy tool to have in your pocket and it's very useful. So don't forget about taking a pocket knife with you whenever you go to use your axe. All right, guys, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna go over a few things with these tools and show you what I do to thin a handle down. I won't be using a spoke shave or a draw knife because I really don't need to take a ton of material off this handle. So it's really gonna be just the wood rasp and probably my pocket knife to get everything off. So another cool thing too, guys, that if you have one of these emblems on your wood handle, say you get a handle in and you don't wanna have to thin the entire handle down, you just wanna sand it, just take your pocket knife and go over the actual emblem that they put on their handles, and within a couple seconds, it's gone, okay? And that way you don't have to spend a ton of time with sandpaper trying to get that emblem off. It'll come off really quick with a pocket knife. Starting out with a pocket knife is pretty simple. I would suggest you always keep your pocket knife sharp. You know, the sharper the blade, the easier it's gonna be to work on something. But like I was saying before, guys, you can take small little chunks if you want to out of your handle. A lot of people will use a draw knife, or they'll use a pocket knife to get polyurethane off of handles without having to sand it. And some people like the finish that a pocket knife or a draw knife gives them when they shave their handle down. It does give it a different type of finish. It makes it look really nice. So, you know, keep in mind that you can use a pocket knife to gently take off the top layer, or if you have polyurethane on your handle and you don't want to sand it forever, you can use a pocket knife and just kind of gently take off that top layer and give yourself a really nice finish without using all that sandpaper and giving yourself all those sandpaper marks in your handles. Then you have a really nice finish on your handle, and you don't have to worry about dust everywhere either. Now, like I said before, guys, you can take this and you can do little areas if you needed to take excess wood off in a certain spot, or you can take a long drawn out like this and take a ton of material off if you want to kind of thin your handle down. You can kind of manipulate this blade too. You can kind of bend it a little, you know, back away from you, and it'll give you a different kind of cut and draw, which is really nice. And you can just do it like that. If you already have a handle that's nice and thin already, but maybe there's a spot or two you want to take down, or you just want to thin it down just a little bit, pocket knives are great for that. Wood rasp, if you want to take the fine side, you can take the fine side to it and take off material as well. And it'll do a really good job of taking material off. And like I said before, you can kind of manipulate this thing. You can kind of go around the curves so that way you don't lose your shape. You can kind of just do what you want, get the shape that you want, or maintain the shape that you already have while you're just trying to thin your handle down. It works really well. And if this isn't enough for you, you can literally just flip it over. You got the teeth here and you can start taking out a ton of material in certain areas or off the whole handle. Either way, these things work really great. And then you have, of course, the Japanese Shinto, which is really nice too. I will say this, guys, with the Japanese Shinto, these things are great. However, they do tend, and I'll show you guys here in a second, watch this. This is the fine side, okay? This is the fine side, and I'm barely putting pressure on it. And it's doing a good job, but let me show you something. These Shintos, see how they leave teeth marks all on the handle? You will get that with those. And if you wanna go back over it with your wood rasp, you can go back over it with your wood rasp to take the teeth back out. or you can use your pocket knife to take those teeth marks out. But that's the only negative thing I'll say about that Japanese Shinto, is that it does leave a ton of teeth marks in your handle, but it's really good for taking off excess material really fast. And it does have a rubber grip, which is nice to keep in your hand as well when you're shaving that wood off. So, guys, I would also recommend too that if you don't have one of these portable work clamp stations, I would consider getting one. These things are great. I like working outside. I like being in natural light. I like being in, getting fresh air all the time. I'm an outdoors person. So I really got one of these so I could really work outside. They're about 100, depending on the brand you get, they can be anywhere between 150 to almost $200. I think some are a little bit more expensive than that, but they're great. They weigh about 40 some pounds. They collapse up into themselves and they take up very little space. And these things are really strong. They'll hold what you need it to hold, and they do a great job. So consider getting one of these portable work clamps and get outside and do this. You get some fresh air, get some sun, and get out of the house, get out of your garage for a little bit and just enjoy working outside. That's kind of what I enjoy doing. Also too, guys, I'm going to give you a little bit of helpful information. I know we can't always cover up the bit. We always, sometimes we have to work with the bit uncovered, whether we're sharpening it or just a weird angle or whatever the case may be. But just to learn from my mistakes, cover the bit when you can, okay? In this situation, there's no reason why the bit needs to be open and out, okay? You could fall on that thing. Just cover it up if you need to. Learn from my mistakes, learn from my mistakes here and here. There's just no reason to have that thing open like that, especially up. And for some reason, I don't know why, but it's always worse when you cut your hand on your bit when you're not even working on the bit. It's like when you're working on the bit and you go to cut yourself, you're like, oh man, that sucks. But it is what it is. I was working on the bit. But when you're working on your handle and cut your hand on the bit, it's like it's even worse. So make sure you guys pay attention to that. Just a little bit of safety there. Just cover that bit up if you can, okay? No reason to have it hanging out if you don't need it out, okay? I'll also give you a bit of advice on knobs. I see people, and I have done it too, where they put these really cool designs in their knobs, and they'll take a Dremel and they'll cut this out and make these really cool jagged edges on the bottom and all that. That's really cool, guys, but I will tell you this, if you're using it as a throwing axe, I don't recommend doing that. And the reason why is because you want all this excess wood right here. They put that there for a lot of reasons, and one reason why they put it there, they give you that excess, so when you're slamming this knob down with a hammer to seat your head, the handle doesn't crack easily. When you start digging this excess wood out and start getting up in here with those designs, and you throw your axe and hit that knob on the tree, there's a lot of times where you'll get a crack that'll come up the handle because you've taken this excess wood off at the bottom. So if you're really using this as a throwing axe, I would suggest leaving this down here at the bottom nice and thick material down here, so that way it'll absorb any misses you have with knob strikes, okay? Cool thing about this working clamp is that you can move the axe. So you can take it out, flip it over, move it around, get to each side, and get the whole axe handle. And it doesn't take much effort at all to put that axe handle in that clamp and then start working on the spots that you may have missed. Pretty easy, guys. When I do these axes, these Vikings axes that I use, I normally like to thin the handle down the most where my hand's gonna grab when I'm gonna throw. There's not really any point in thinning the handle down up here as much as it is right here, because if it's my throwing axe, I'm gonna be grabbing, most right here. And what I like to do is I like to thin my handles down to where when I grab the handle, my middle finger just about touches the pad of my hand right here. So I got a little bit more to go, but once I get this middle finger touching this pad, I know that I've gone to where I need to go at. When you're thinning your handles down, and say you got the left side up like I do here, and you start working on your handle, remember to not go too far with it, and flip the handle over and do the other side too. You want to try to maintain that shape, and you don't want to do one side more than the other. You'll feel it when you finish. So just give this side a little bit, and then keep in mind maybe how many strokes you do per side, and then kind of flip it over. I normally can kind of feel and see where I'm at on each side, and see, okay, Like now I need to flip it over now because I can feel that this side's a little bit farther out than this side is, but you can count your strokes if you need to, or just, you know, by touch and feel, get an idea that, hey, I probably should turn this handle over now and start on the other side, so I don't have a wonky shaped handle. All right, we'll start on this side now, thinning the area down where my hand's gonna be at, because I want to try to get that handle down a little bit more to my liking, where I like my handle. And guys, you know, everybody's hand size is different, so you may have to do a little bit more work if you got smaller hands, or less work if you got bigger hands. So you know, just keep that in mind as well. Some of you guys with bigger hands don't have to thin as much, which is nice. Less work for you, I suppose, which is kind of cool. And we are there. Middle finger is touching my palm now, or the pad on my hand, and I'm exactly where I want to be at. So I'm just going to thin this part up here. I haven't hit this yet, and I'll move on to the next step after that. What I like to do, guys, is just take the handle out, put the handle in where I've already, you know, hit it at, tighten it up, okay, like that. And then we'll start on this side, give it some sweeping strokes. I'm not worried about it too much. This handle's actually one of the thinner of the handles that I get from them. So this one doesn't really need a ton of work. Some are a little bit thicker and they require me to do a little bit more shaving, but this one right here is a really nice handle to start with, because it came exactly how I like it, with very minimal effort. But you know, guys, any handle's gonna need some work. Very little handles come perfect. I have had some really good handles, and that Dane axe that I'm about to build, that handle's almost perfect, guys. It really is. And I'm gonna show you guys when I build that. I'm gonna have to do very little work to that handle. They do a really good job when they made that handle, making it come with very little effort that needs to be put into that handle to make it good. So, which is gonna be nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If we pretty much got it all done with the knife and the wood rasp, I've got it about where I want it. So yeah, that looks good. All right, guys, sorry about the sun. It's probably to my back now, so I probably got a shadow on me. But the handle is now thinned to my liking. I can get my hand around it, and it is touching my pad, so that's exactly where I want it to be at. You guys can leave it like this if you did a really good job thinning it with your knife or whatever you used, and you like the finish that's on it. It doesn't feel too rough, and you like the look of it. You can leave it as is, put some boiled linseed oil on it, soak it for a few days here and there, and you could be good to go. I normally, after I get to this point, I like to use 220 grit sandpaper to get all the imperfection out, and I like my handles a little rough. Not too rough, but they are throwing axes, so I like a grip to my handles. So I do use 220 grit sandpaper to get all the imperfections out from the knife, from me thinning the handle, and then I have my finished product. So I'll show you guys basically how I sand it. Pretty easy. It's pretty simple, guys. I just take a piece of sandpaper, tear it off, okay, fold it up, and then just sand the handle, okay. And like I said, guys, you don't have to do this. If you've done a really good job with your shaving with whatever you used and you like the finish, you can leave it like it is. I think it does give it a little bit better of a look with the knife whenever you're shaving the handle. But you know, I like mine with a little bit more of a texture on it. So I use sandpaper to get all those knife marks and those imperfections out. That works out for me. So flip the handle over and then go on the other side. Do this to all sides with the sandpaper. It's pretty simple, guys. Nothing, probably not showing you anything that you don't already know, but you know, giving you some information here. I really make sure to get this area down here where the knob's at, right here. This is the part that where it's coming out of my hand. It's okay to have this a little rougher, But this area right here I want smooth because I want a smooth transition. This axe coming out of my hand. So I try to make this area right here where I grab it at. This side and the right side of the handle, I want a little smoother than the rest of it because like I said, I want the transition to come out of my hand nicely. And I don't want anything hanging on my hand. So I tend to spend a little bit more time making sure that this right side of the handle and the top area down here by the knob is a little bit smoother. Give me a better transition out of my hand when I throw. Yeah, that's nice. All right, guys, so here's the final product. We are done with thinning this handle. Have a look-see at it. There we go. Nice and thin down, especially right in here. You guys may not be able to see a big difference, but you can definitely tell right in here that I've thinned it down. And that's exactly where I like it. I wanted to give you guys just a basic thinning. These handles come really, really thin already, but they do need a little thinning. And I'm sure as the channel goes, I'll get handles where I have to do a really deep dive into taking a lot of material off. But this was just a basic one that I wanted to do for you guys to give you some information on the tools that I use and how I go about doing it, especially with these axes. But here's the final product. Also too, when you're doing these handles, guys, you don't have to seat the head first. You can work on the handle before you seat the head. I like seating my head first because it gives me something to put in my clamp to hold. It does make getting up inside here with sandpaper and thinning this down a little tricky, but you can do it either way. I just like seating my heads because, like I said, it gives me something to hold on to in my clamp when I'm sanding and thinning the handles down. But you don't have to. All right, guys, so stick around for the next video. I'm gonna show you guys how I put a little bit of character into these handles and how I treat them, okay? It's gonna be a really cool video. Show you guys what I use color-wise and oil-wise and how I basically finish my handles out and what they look like when they're done. So until next time, guys, see ya.